All right, welcome to the Young Turks. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur. Come on, you know that. We have an amazing show for you guys today. Come on, you know that. Come on, Obama. That's from the old school. All right, now we've got, come on, Trump. Yes, we do have massive stories related to the protests over the weekend in football. How Donald Trump accidentally started that fire, which is awesome. How wonderfully counterproductive it was. And then among the many fantastic stories I have for you is NASCAR got into this whole national anthem thing, and it took a surprising turn. If you turn around the corner, if you will, that's a really bad pun. But the thing that I don't want you to miss is, how did standing for the national anthem in the NFL start in the first place? That's an amazing story. All right, in the meanwhile, I want you to guess what year players started saluting the national anthem in the NFL. I'm not gonna give you the answer until the next segment. What year? Was it 1959? Was it 1919? I don't think the NFL was around then. Was it 2009? Was it 1989? You're not gonna know. Of course you are. You'll watch it in the next segment, or you'll watch it later on YouTube or Facebook. Anyways, I'm keeping it real about how the show works. But I have other amazing stories for you. Oh, and then one other thing. In the next hour, no, you know what, two other things. In the next hour, sure, we'll talk about the so-called free speech rally at Berkeley. Oh, the way that fizzled was phenomenal. And then somebody saw a t-shirt of the Young Turks at that Nemo event and then started running. They're not coming for us. We're coming for them. Oh, you're gonna love that. That's in the second hour. Okay. The other thing is, I forgot to tell you guys. Do I have this right?
You're a bitch.
No, I'm on the wrong bank. I did not want to tell you guys that. Okay. Okay, so. That means we have an announcement. Young Turks, stream me for new show of the year. I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying, okay. Anyway, so there's actually two parts of the streamies. Last night was the Premiere Awards where we were nominated for 2 awards, including Murder with Friends on Pop Trigger. That's amazing. They were nominated for nonfiction parts, so that was fantastic. And then News Show of the Year was actually the very last award announced there. They had built up with Best Director, Best Comedy, etc. And they got the News Show, and we won that category, so that was excellent. That was actually not you guys. What? It's almost always you guys voting. In that case, it was actually the streamers itself that voted. But on Tuesday, they have the broadcast awards for the streamies. We just had a jet fly over. Okay, that was supersonic sound, wasn't it? Yeah, that was amazing. What is it, Trump buzzing the studio? It's fascinating. Anyway, on Tuesday, we're up for show of the year. That is you guys, that's you voting. So do hashtag TYT for streamies, 4 as in FOR, you gotta write it out. Hashtag TYT for streamies, you gotta keep voting all the way through Tuesday night, okay? If we win the best show on the internet, this is gonna be on steroids. All right, let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes, okay? We will have that in word of whether we won Tuesday night on social media, and then Wednesday during the show, of course, we'll let you know how it turned out. Some great tweets already when I announced we won the News Show of the Year. Right-wing reactions, basically Alex Jones pounding the desk with papers like, oh no, and then running. Anyways, all right, let's do the show. Okay. Sad story about John McCain. You all know he's got cancer now. He went on 60 Minutes, talked to Leslie Stahl, and he let us in on how bad it is, and it turns out it's pretty bad. Let's show you.
That it's very serious, that the prognosis is very, very serious. Some say 3%, some say 14%. You know, it's a very poor prognosis. So I just said, I understand. Now we're going to do what we can, get the best doctors we can find, and do the best we can. And at the same time, celebrate with gratitude a life well lived.
Now, throughout the years, I've had a lot of disagreements with John McCain. I've also from time to time had some agreements with him, not only recently on his vote on healthcare, but he was actually the very last Republican I ever voted for. In the 2000 primaries, I voted for John McCain over George W. Bush. And then in the general election, I voted for Al Gore, first Democrat I ever voted for, because I watched the debates and I thought one guy is way smarter than the other guy. And is an important decision. But in the primaries, I had voted for McCain. And since then, there's, his stance on war, I just think is deplorable. But having said that, you watch that video, man. If you're human, it's hard not to have great sympathy, empathy for him, his family, and boy, if this is indeed his last tour duty, he is taking it like a champ, and I couldn't imagine handling it any better. That's amazing. So now, of course, we're still in the field of politics, so he is going to get asked about Donald Trump. Let's watch that.
Did he ever apologize for saying you're not a hero?
No. I also understand that we're very different people, different upbringing, different life experiences.
What do you mean by that, and what does it make you think about?
He is in the business of making money, and he has been successful, both on television as well as Miss America and others. I was raised in a military family. I was raised in the concept and belief that duty, honor, country is the lodestar for the behavior that we have to exhibit every single day.
Those were nice shots of Trump. I was raised to believe in duty, honor, etc., country. And he, he's a businessman that did the Miss USA pageant or something. Look, he didn't put it as maybe spitefully as I might have, or with more salt in the wounds, but that was shots fired, and it was nicely done. Now, they also asked him about, hey, what do you make of his statements in regards to all these different political matters at hand today? And he said, quote, he changes his statements almost on a daily basis. So for me to spend my time trying to analyze what he says, I don't know. In other words, he is, as we have told you over and over, and now there's a Republican senator saying it, a pathological liar. Now, he didn't say that exact quote, but I just read you his quote, and you can see that's exactly the direction that he's going in. Changes his statements on a daily basis. He has no principles. He has no actual ideology, Trump. All he has is political expedience and what's good for Donald Trump. And so now, freed from the donors, freed from the daily pressure of politics, John McCain speaking truth to power there, in a sense. By the way, he was also very gracious, saying, look, he's the president of the United States, and I believe in our democracy, and the American people chose him, so that's that. And so I don't begrudge that. That's how this system works. It's just that, he just personally doesn't believe him, and thinks that he's structured a little differently than John McCain. But he is the president, and of course that's true. Now, this would be a normal way for almost anybody on the political spectrum to handle John McCain in that interview, and what's obviously a very sad moment here as he believes that he has very little chance of recovery. But that's not how some Republicans are going to handle it. So we're told from time to time that progressives are uncivil. All right, so let's go to an actual example of lack of civility. That's Louis Gohmert. He's going to go on Fox and Friends and say something wild and outrageous.
Nothing inhibits recovery from cancer like stress. I think the Arizona could help him and us. Recall him, let him, fight successfully this terrible cancer, and let's get somebody in here who will keep the word he gave last year.
Wait, did you say he should resign or step down and take care of his health? Or did you say that Arizona should recall him? like remove him from office. Did I hear that right? Even Steve Doocy shared my surprise at that. Here, watch.
Say that again. What are you suggesting? He be recalled?
I think it would be very helpful
because
to
of
him
this.
and the country. He's got cancer. It's a tough battle, but stress is a real inhibitor toward getting over cancer. So let him go back, deal with the cancer, let Arizona recall him so that we can get somebody that will keep his word from last year.
Wow. Wow. What an unbelievable prick. He's saying the very last thing that should happen to John McCain is to have the voters of Arizona disgrace him by recalling him from office. And it's not because, hey, stress and and I want him to get better. No, he said it would help him and us. And he said put someone in office who would keep his promise from last year. Meaning, no, I want him recalled because he voted the wrong way on health care. He's having health care issues. I obviously, as you can tell here, don't care about that at all. And I also don't care about your health care. And I hope that, as Louis Gohmert voted in the House to strip away health care from tens of millions of Americans, approximately 23 million Americans or so. And saying, hey, and if John McCain's not going to take away other people's health care, Arizona should recall him. Wow, he did everything but say good riddance. Okay, well, now you know where Louis Gohmert and some faction of the right-wing Republican Party stands. Okay, now we go to Jared Kushner. Okay. Now, I was told during the last presidential election that using a private email account is horrific offense for anyone associated with the government. I mean, it's such a bad offense that you should be locked up. I believe I heard chants to that effect regarding Hillary Clinton, which is why this story seems a little surprising. Politico reporting that presidential son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner has corresponded with other administration officials about White House matters through a private email account set up during the transition last December, part of a larger pattern of Trump aides using personal email accounts for government business. What? Well, okay, hey man, look, this wasn't my chant, it was your chant, but let's go for it. Lock him up, because I didn't think it was a federal offense. Trump people told us it was a federal offense. They chanted it, right? Okay, let's give you more details. Now, if this was an account that he's had with AOL for quite some time, his mom emailed him on there and he said, yeah, I'll be over for Thanksgiving or whatever. Okay, maybe that's a different situation, but it sounded like he was doing official government business. And what was interesting to me is that it was not an old account. Let's give you more details. We go to Politico. Kushner uses his private account alongside his official White House email account, sometimes trading emails with senior White House officials, outside advisors, and others about media coverage, event planning, and other subjects, according to 4 people familiar with the correspondence. Politico has seen and verified about 24 emails. So definitely doing government business, no question about that. Let's keep going. Kushner and his wife, Ivanka Trump, set up their private family domain late last year before moving to Washington from New York, according to people with knowledge of events as well as publicly available internet registration records. At the time, Kushner, who served as senior campaign advisor, was familiar with the correspondence. Was expected to be named to a White House role, while Ivanka Trump was publicly saying she didn't plan to work in her father's administration. Now, of course, she later did take a role in the administration. So wait, now that's different. So they set up these accounts knowing they were going to the White House. It was after the election and before they went into the White House. It looks like it was set up for the purpose of having communications that they wouldn't have to report. Because because of our laws in America, if you're doing official government business, all that is recorded and kept for history. Now, those are not shared unless they're leaked, but they're not supposed to be. And your private emails can get leaked too. But legally, they are not to be shared publicly right now at all. But they must be kept for our records, for government records. You work for us, you're part of the government. So they set up a new email account, kind of like Hillary Clinton set up a private email server specifically to have private emails that could not be traced by the government. Now, one was a server, this one is an email account. There is a slight difference there. Now, of course, there is an important issue of the classified document. So let's go to his defense on this. Politico says there is no indication that Kushner has shared any sensitive or classified material on his private account, or that he relies on his private email account more than his official White House account to conduct government business. So look, in reality, huge distinction, and we don't know that there wasn't any classified information on there. And remember, that's what started the Hillary Clinton investigation. They didn't know that she had shared classified information either. They started the investigation and then found out that that might have happened. Now, none of the things that she did apparently was bad enough that she purposely shared classified information in a way that it could get out. So that's why she was not charged. So whether it's classified or not is relevant, but an investigation was started on her to find out. An argument could be made to start an investigation on Kushner to find out if he has shared classified information, because we now know for a fact, because Politico has actually seen the emails, that he is sharing and having conversations about official government work on his private email account. Again, it wasn't us who said that that was a massive crime. It was the Trump team that said it was a massive crime. Okay, Lowell, who is his attorney, said Kushner has adhered to government record keeping requirements by forwarding all the emails to his account, though Politico could not verify that. Hey, listen, you say that he's putting those emails into his government account too. First of all, I don't believe that for a second. There's no way that you bothered to set up a private email account so you could have untraceable emails and then reported them anyway and just transferred them over to your government account so that they could be traced. But hey, listen, that's okay. I don't need to decide that. The FBI can decide that. They should have an equal and opposite investigation, just like they did of Hillary Clinton. And just like the Trump team, we could turn around and say, well, even before the decision comes in by the FBI, in their case, it was even after the decision came in by the FBI to not prosecute, saying it was not illegal, they chanted anyway. So lock him up, lock him up. Okay, wait, one last thing. But I mean, was it like, hey, guys, what are we gonna have at lunch? Or maybe it was with his, interns, not at all important. Did it involve senior White House officials? Let's find out. Aides who have exchanged emails with Kushner on his private account since President Donald Trump took office in January include former Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, former Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, National Economic Council Director Gary Cohn, a spokesman and spokesman Josh Raffle, according to emails described to or shown to Politico. In some cases, those White House officials have emailed Kushner's account first, said people familiar with the messages. At times, Bannon and Priebus have also used private email accounts to correspond with Kushner and others. Oh, great. So that's Kushner, Trump, Bannon, Priebus. So let me change the chant real quick. Lock them up, lock them up. And listen, man, we didn't ask for you guys to start a chant about locking people up who use private email accounts while in the government. You did, so I guess it equals just as well to you. Hey, maybe another special counsel or the FBI, get to work, investigate these guys to see if there was any classified information or anything else that they did illegally, including violating that Records Act. And then it's, I guess, handcuffs time. All right. My guess is that they're not actually going to go to prison because two different sets of laws apply. And just real quick aside here, it's a matter of how much of a big deal the two sides make it. And that's why the media sucks so much when they do the 50-50 game, right? So Republicans will take a molehill and make a mountain out of it, and they'll start chanting, lock them up and lock her up and all that stuff. And then they'll have hearing after hearing after hearing, and then the press will go, well, I have to cover it. I have to cover it 24/7 because the Republicans have made a big deal out of it. Now, I understand that there's 1,000 different things that the Trump administration have done, and it's hard to focus on all of them if you're the Democrats, but 9 out of 10 things, they just drop. So, you'll probably, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe it's like way worse than we thought, and you'll see it again and again. But probably, the history is any judge, the Democrats will completely drop this story, and you'll hardly ever hear of it again. There'll be no committee hearings, there'll be no investigations, and then the media will drop it. It's an uneven playing field. The Republicans are vicious and will fight you and will make will turn molehills into mountains. Democrats, on the other hand, take mountains and turn them into molehills. So that's the state of affairs as we have it now. Okay, so now, speaking of bad Democratic behavior, this is of a different note and much worse. Okay, Anthony Weiner was a Democratic congressman who lost his seat, had to resign in shame because of reaching out to different women on Twitter and sending sexually explicit messages. Now, he was run out of Congress back in 2011, but then he made a comeback and he was running for mayor of New York and was actually doing really well in the polls in 2013 until we found out he had done it again. And that time he had called himself Carlos Danger online. And he famously corresponded with Sydney Leathers. She turned over a lot of those messages, as a lot of the people that he sexted with, and is there a word for sexual messages on Twitter? Swittered with. Anyway, but he never learns the lesson. He never learns the lesson. And then in 2016, he got busted again. Several different people, including an older woman that I say older because he got in trouble with an underage girl that I'm about to tell you about. And he had sent a picture to the other woman with his young son, who was a baby at the time, in the picture. Don't do that. He was showing off his abs and the baby was next to him. So finally, Huma Abedin, who was top advisor for Hillary Clinton, I almost said fired him, divorced him, and they separated and then parted ways. And of course, it wound up famously affecting the 2016 election because they had a separate investigation on Anthony Weiner, criminal investigation, because he had sent sexually explicit messages to a 15-year-old, which is what I'm about to tell you, the conclusion of that story now. But because of some of those messages were on Huma Abedin's computer, they had to then reopen the Hillary Clinton investigation because they found out that there was all these messages, emails on Huma Abedin's computer the FBI had not checked yet. Now, later they checked them and found out there was nothing wrong, but by that time the damage had been done. And that was part of what had happened in 2016 to cause Hillary Clinton to lose. Of course, the other gigantic part was Hillary Clinton. Anyway, so if you don't remember the part about the 15-year-old, let me go to the Daily Mail investigation last year that gave the details. Anthony Weiner carried on a months-long online sexual relationship with a 15-year-old girl, during which she claims he asked her to dress up in schoolgirl outfits for him on a video messaging application. And much worse, I mean, the details are pretty gory, and we don't need to rehash them because he's guilty, and I'm gonna tell you about that in a sec. But at the time, a very important component was, did he know that she was 15? It's one thing if you think you're talking to a 38-year-old online, and it's just online. It's another thing if you know she's a 15-year-old. Well, Weiner was apparently aware that the girl was underage, according to the dailymail.com. Interviews with the girl and her father, as well as a cache of online messages. So they had the messages, they did see them, they did show them, and eventually Weiner pled guilty. So in fact, let me go to the New York Times now. That explains that Mr. Weiner, who pled guilty in May to one count of transferring obscene materials to a minor and had faced up to 10 years in prison. Now that's a long time. Of course, his lawyers asked for probation, saying, come on, he's part of the elite. Are you really gonna send him to prison? Of course, that was not their technical defense, but in essence, he's a good upstanding member of the community. He had a disease, he's fighting the disease, etc. In fact, before the sentence was pronounced, the New York Times explains, Mr. Weiner did not so much ask for leniency, but tried to make a case that he had accepted responsibility for his crime and that he was a changed man. Now, of course, he in fact did want leniency and his lawyers did ask for that, but that was his show of contrition. Oh my God, Your Honor, I've really learned. And he said, quote, I acted not only unlawfully, but immorally. And if I had done the right thing, I would not be standing before you today. So that's pretty clear. Well, so what did the judge say? Well, she said that she agreed with Mr. Weiner's lawyer's contention that he was finally receiving effective treatment for a disease of sexual compulsion, that he was engaging in sex addiction therapy and was, don't get me wrong, he was not engaging in sex addiction again. He was engaging in sex addiction therapy and was making what she called, quote, an enormous contribution to others suffering from that disease. But, quote, the difficulty here is that this is a very strong compulsion. It was so strong, she added, that despite 2 very public disclosures and the destruction of his career on 2 occasions, he continued with the activity. That is certainly true. So she finally gave out a sentence. 21 months in prison. So, wow. Okay, so he is actually going to prison. Now, whenever anyone who was a politician or just generally a member of the elite, the establishment, etc., actually goes to prison, it is almost shocking because it's just not something that happens very often in America. We definitely have a 2-tier justice system. But in this case, Anthony Weiner was definitely out of allies. No Republican or Democrat had any interest in him. No one in power had any interest in him. He was roundly derided by almost everyone in power and his former friends. And I guess once you're out of allies, prison is possible. 21 months, so obviously almost 2 years in prison for Anthony Weiner, which is amazing. And just a final description to this inglorious end of a career. New York Times says that after the hearing ended and Judge Cote had left the bench, Mr. Weiner remained seated between his lawyers, Arlo Devlin Brown and Aaron Monju, at the defense table, bent deeply forward in his chair, sobbing, his face in his hands. So look, there's a lot that can be said about this story, and this is the one story that I always point to of me being wrong. When the story first came out, I couldn't believe it. I thought, no way. What was previously thought to be a smart congressman was going to send penis pictures to women online. That's the craziest story I ever heard. And there was 1,000 false stories and allegations made up in the right-wing press earlier, not about him specifically, but overall. And so I said that I don't believe the story at all. Well, it turns out the story was true. I was wrong, and then he did it again and again and again. So, you know, and in the past I've made fun of sexual addiction because, I mean, we're guys, aren't we all sexually addicted? And that's a common cliched thing to say. But you find out with Anthony Weiner, no, it might be a real thing, because he did this despite the fact that he thought it could hurt everyone around him, his family, his loved ones, and absolutely destroy his career, and he still couldn't help himself. So that's no excuse, and certainly the court system didn't find it to be an excuse, and that's why he's going to prison. But it is interesting that it is a compulsion that drives some to absolute ruin, and that is apparently what has happened with Anthony Weiner. All right, when we come back, Trump versus the NFL. Fascinating developments, and especially the part about how they started standing for the national anthem in the NFL in the first place. You don't want to miss that story. We'll be right back.
You have in common with your daughter?
I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that to her.
He said I had small hands. They're not small, are they? I never heard that one before.
I saw a picture of John. I was like, look at this fucking badass Viking he met on his trip. And I was like, oh wait, that's John.
Yeah.
Because his beard is so grown. I swear to God, I didn't recognize him. I thought it was like a dude from up there, like a Viking-looking dude from up there.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, we've got our own Viking. Look at Johnny Pie. Johnny Pie, we miss you, big guy. and he was at Svalbard. We were talking about how he was going to go get the grains if he's the last person on Earth, and he's got to, or among the last people on that ship, and repopulate the Earth after North Korea. At least he's got the grains. He knows where it is. He can find it. Don't worry, humanity will be saved. Yet again, by a white male, John Idaho.
Hey, Cenk, what's up?
Aaron, my VCR keeps flashing 12, but it's not even midnight. Go.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Time for Trump and the NFL. Sorry, don't have time for tweets. We'll get to those later. Let's do it. So on Friday night, Donald Trump was giving a speech in Alabama. No one knows why. He just likes to go to rallies and have people cheer him. And he decided that he was going to take a swipe at NFL players. And boy, did that start a giant controversy, which wound up backfiring on Donald Trump in a wonderful way. I'm going to explain all the details for you guys, but first, let's hear out Trump.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired. Wouldn't you love it?
So a whole bunch of things already from that small clip. First of all, my favorite thing is when he walks around the ring like he's a wrestler, like, so, right, okay. And I know that his fans get into that too. I'm just amused at what a goofball he is. All right, second of all, then people say, oh, he called him son of a bitch. I don't care about that at all. Okay, he used vulgar language. I use vulgar language. I don't care. But I do know that it made other people defend those NFL players taking a knee, like Colin Kaepernick and the others, as I'm going to show you. So it was poor strategy if it was intended to gain some degree of sympathy. And by the way, in all honesty and seriousness, the reason he was in Alabama was to rally for Luther Strange, who is running in a Republican primary. That's Trump's candidate. He's running against Steve Bannon's candidate, Roy Moore, and Strange is losing. So he'd gone down to rally his base. But when you're rallying folks, you're supposed to do things that excites people and gets them to vote for you by igniting this controversy. Well, look, other controversies have served him in the past, but it's possible that you're being counterproductive. But he doesn't think those things through. But he has, in essence, there begun to attack the NFL and start an issue where it becomes First Amendment. It wasn't a First Amendment issue because the NFL is private and they can do whatever they want to their players. But when you have the government, i.e. the President of the United States, telling people, hey, you know what, you should take action and you should fire those guys, then it's the beginning of a First Amendment issue where the government is pressuring people to get fired if they say the wrong things. Okay, but he's got more.
When the NFL ratings are down massively, the NFL ratings are down massively. Now, the number one reason happens to be that they like watching what's happening on, with yours truly. They like what's happening.
It's unbearable, man. If he was making a serious political point, he then ruins it by going, oh, the ratings are down because the only thing that matters is ratings. It's because everybody's watching me. Yeah, that's because you're a train wreck, dude. Just like this story. All right, keep it going.
Because today if you hit too hard, right? They hit too hard, 15 yards, throw him out of the game. They had that last week. I watched for a couple of minutes and two guys just really beautiful tackle. Boom, 15 yards. The referee gets on television. His wife is sitting at home. She's so proud of him. They're ruining the game, right? They're ruining the game.
Yeah, in a recent study, they studied the brains of deceased NFL players. 110 out of 111 had significant brain damage. They're ruining the game. We were having fun with these gladiators who, smash into each other, and if they, hurt themselves even more, that was fun, and their wife was proud of them. They're ruining the game. But look, more importantly, he's now gone from I don't like Colin Kaepernick not standing for the national anthem to attacking the entire NFL. Bad idea, Jeans. Okay, now you're going to get the whole NFL against you, and if you were trying to turn the tables on him, as usual, you've turned the tables on yourself. All right, one more.
You know what's hurting the game more than that? When people like yourselves turn on television and you see those people taking the knee when they're playing our great national anthem. The only thing you could do better is if you see it, even if it's one player, leave the stadium. I guarantee things will stop. Things will stop. Just pick up and leave. Pick up and leave.
A lot of the NFL owners are billionaires. They pretty much banned Kaepernick from the league. They don't say it outright, but none of them will sign him, even though he's clearly one of the top 96 quarterbacks in the world. Of course, one of them should sign him. They have terrible quarterbacks throughout the league, and they won't do it. But what did Trump just do? He took those billionaires, a lot of them who had not only publicly said they voted for him, but had given him millions of dollars, and just told you to leave their businesses, to hurt their businesses. You're such an idiot. You took natural allies and turned them into enemies. That's all he ever does day in, day out. And by the way, he keeps telling people, that they should take action if he doesn't agree with their political point of view. He is the government. He's the president of the United States. When asked who's his favorite Supreme Court justice, after he first said Judge Judy, he didn't, but almost. He first said that he would think about putting Judge Napolitano from Fox News on the bench. Anyway, when pressed later, he said, "Oh, Antonin Scalia. Antonin Scalia is my favorite justice." Well, let's go to a quote from Antonin Scalia. He's obviously deceased now, but this is what he had said about this issue. He said, "If I were king, I would not allow people to go around burning the American flag. However, we have a First Amendment which says that the right of free speech shall not be abridged, and it is addressed in particular speech critical of the government." That was the main kind of speech that tyrants would seek to suppress. So here we go again, a tyrant trying to suppress speech that he does not like. Now, that was not well enough, so he decided that he's going to tweet on the issue. Here comes Trump more. Says, if a player wants the privilege of making millions of dollars in the NFL or other leagues, he or she should not be allowed to disrespect our great American flag or country and should stand for the national anthem. If not, you're fired. Find something else to do. Again, making it a First Amendment issue when it previously was not. Before, it was about freedom of expression as a general principle. Now it's getting to be the government intimidating people into taking action against people because they did not like their political speech. That is exactly why we have the First Amendment, so that the government cannot do that, so that tyrants cannot do that. Even the most conservative people in the country agree with that. Now, Donald Trump continues, courageous patriots have fought and died for our great American flag. We must honor and respect it, make America great again. He's just not letting it go. Now, this is now finally Sunday morning. So he started it Friday night. There's a lot of heat around it. He, of course, doubles down because that's all he ever knows what to do, right? And then he continues, sports fans should never condone players that do not stand proud for their national anthem or their country. NFL should change policy. Again, trying to dictate terms to them. So what happens on Sunday after Trump makes all those comments? Well, everybody starts sitting. Of course. So we have players from all over. Let's start taking a look at the pictures here. Immediately starts in the Jacksonville Jaguars, Baltimore Ravens game. Now, let's pause here for a second because that was the first game played. It was actually in London that it was being played, but it was the first in the schedule. And that in the owner is Shahid Khan in the middle. And that is and the owner of the team who gave a ton of money to Donald Trump, but now is standing with his team and locking arms in protest of Donald Trump and of the national anthem. They're locking arms during the national anthem. He turned the owners that had given him millions of dollars against him. I told you, he is so stupid. All right, let's keep going. All right, then that's the Ravens on the opposite side also taking a knee. This thing's on fire. That's the Jaguars locking arms, but also the Houston Texans, the New England Patriots. We got more on Tom Brady later in the show. He was part of that as well. Now that's the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles also locking arms with his players. He's now turning almost all the owners against them. The Giants on the opposite side playing the Eagles also locking arms. The Chiefs not only locking arms, but raising fists, some of them. And by the way, Travis Kelce, the most prominent white player, now Brady as well, of course, but Kelce took a knee for the Chiefs. That's the Los Angeles Chargers taking a knee. The Lions both locking arms and taking a knee, so it is part of the same movement. The Falcons doing likewise in the same game. Now Rico Lavelle in that game sings the national anthem, takes a knee, and puts the fist up. So now it's spread to not just the players, but to people singing the anthem. He's not alone, more on that later. The Browns, likewise. Even the guys that are standing, locking arms oftentimes with the guys who are kneeling. Giants, Bills, Broncos, Saints sitting on the bench. That's another form of protest. Panthers, Buccaneers, those are Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans, the two best players for the Buccaneers doing it. More owners, the Packers doing it. Aaron Rodgers is in there, the Bengals doing it. The Redskins, even Daniel Snyder locked arms. Also another huge donor to Donald Trump. Oakland Raiders, Marshawn Lynch started sitting on the bench. A lot of the Raiders sitting on the bench there. Then for the Seahawks-Titans game, neither side shows up. Neither Seahawks or the Titans show up for the national anthem. They're both in. Then the guy singing the national anthem, the woman and the guy playing the guitar, they both take a knee while singing the national anthem. So everybody's doing it in that game. More from the Bears. And the Steelers are the ones who started staying in the locker room. I have more on that story later in the show. They come out only after the anthem is done. The Jets. And by the way, Ray Lewis, who is a Hall of Famer for the Baltimore Ravens in that first game with the Ravens and the Jaguars, also took a knee. And the reason why that's an interesting story, and there he is, he's of course retired now, is because Ray Lewis was a supporter of, or at least had gone to see Donald Trump. Let me read you two of the people from that game making the statement. Julius Thomas, tight end that used to be for the Jaguars, now with the Dolphins, had said in a tweet, quote, "This isn't the first time in this country where men and women with oppressive values tried to intimidate men and women with great courage to accept inequality. I will take a knee with my teammates until I see liberty and justice for all." So great job by Thomas going further and explaining his stance. Then HuffPost explains future NFL Hall of Famer Ray Lewis, who visited then President-elect Trump in New York in December, also kneeled. In the past, though, Lewis has spoken against Kaepernick's protests. Now, the reason I tell you that part is because look at this. Another potential ally who had said Kaepernick was wrong, now swayed by Trump so much that he goes and joins Kaepernick and takes a knee along with his former teammates on the Ravens. So it goes on and on. Now, we go to the Seahawks. The Steelers were the first to not show up for the national anthem. And they put out a statement that they will not be doing that. Now, one of their players did come out, he's a former Army Ranger, and salute the national anthem. Everybody else stayed in the locker room. Then Seattle also stayed in the locker room in a later game and put out a statement. The Seahawks players announced before the game at LP Field in Nashville, Tennessee, that they would not be participating in the national anthem, and they clarified, quote, "to protest the injustice that has plagued people of color in this country." So they wanted to make it clear this is not just for unity with fellow teammates, but it is to actually protest injustice and racial injustice as well. Now I want to go to statements from higher ups. So we go to the CEO of the Green Bay Packers, Mark Murphy. He says, "It's unfortunate that the president decided to use his immense platform to make divisive and offensive statements about our players and the NFL. We believe strongly that players are leaders in our communities and positive influences. They have achieved their positions through tremendous work and dedication and should be celebrated for their success and positive impact." And he went on to say also, "We believe that it is important to support any of our players who choose to peacefully express themselves with the hope for good. As Americans, we are fortunate to be able to speak openly and freely." So nice job, Donald Trump. There goes CEOs of football teams, and now finally to the owners. Robert Kraft, a good ally of Donald Trump, one who gave him a Super Bowl ring recently, gave him, I think, about $1 million for his campaign, went to his inauguration. Even Kraft turns. Not only did he lock arms with his players, he said, quote, "I am deeply disappointed by the tone of the comments made by the president on Friday. I am proud to associate with so many players who make such tremendous contributions in positively impacting our communities. Our players are intelligent, thoughtful, and care deeply about our community, and I support their right to peacefully effect social change and raise awareness in a manner that they feel is most important." Thank you, Donald Trump. You gave Colin Kaepernick and all of us who believed in him and the stand that he was taking so much more allies, so many more allies, so much more momentum. No one could have done for this movement what Donald Trump did by buffoonishly attacking those folks in a way that turned almost everyone against them. Now all of a sudden you've got billionaires, Trump supporters, Trump voters, conservatives, and so many other folks that are now turning around and going, yeah, wait a minute, that is their free speech rights, right? And they should be able to speak freely. And wait, at some point they might even turn around and go, wait, why is Colin Kaepernick not in the league? I mean, now that all of these players, hundreds of players are taking the knee, why on God's green earth is Colin Kaepernick still not in the league? And my guess is that probably gets solved soon, because now Trump has settled the debate. By going on the opposite side, he's gotten almost the entire country to at least understand and appreciate what Kaepernick is doing. And finally, after seeing all this, do you think Donald Trump is going to reverse position? Of course not. He's going to triple down. So he then tweets after the games, great solidarity for our national anthem and for our country. Standing with locked arms is good. Kneeling is not acceptable. Bad ratings. Oh. First of all, locking their arms is locking their arms against what you stood for. They're saying they stand with their teammates who are kneeling. He doesn't understand anything. And then what's his last line? Bad ratings. Don't care about principles. Got you. By the way, there's bad ratings because everyone's leaving TV. They don't have subscriptions to cable anymore. So it has nothing to do with anything else. Okay, and he says, the issue of kneeling has nothing to do with race. It's about respect for our country, flag and national anthem. NFL must respect this. The only way you could make it worse is to involve the government more and make it an actual freedom of speech issue. And now you have the president, the leader of the government, saying the NFL must respect this. When earlier he also talked about firing people, etc. And Roger Goodell says, divisive comments like these demonstrate an unfortunate lack of respect for the NFL, our great game, and all of our players, and a failure to understand the overwhelming force for good our clubs and players represent in our communities. He's, of course, the NFL commissioner. Finally, he adds, look, he has to take his ideas and go with what he wants. I think it's very disrespectful to our country. I'm sorry, this is Donald Trump responding to Roger Goodell saying, look, he has to take his ideas and go with what he wants. I think it's very disrespectful.